In today's episode, I'm going to be replacing the old alternator that is not working with a new-ish alternator that hopefully will work. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Mark 1 Motorworks. That's just me today. As you know, Aaron lives in Scotland, I live on the Isle of Wight. So, but in today's video, we're going to do a very quick little thing. This is a bonus episode, so as some of you probably know on the Instagram, so let me explain. The truck, all of a sudden, wasn't starting up. Anybody who follows me on Instagram would have seen that. I've been posting about it recently. And the truck just wasn't turning over one day, and I was like, that's weird. You know, battery's like 12 volts, doesn't make sense. So I had to jump start it using the girlfriend's micro. And what I did, with the help of a few of you on Instagram, is I got the thing running, used a multimeter on the battery terminals, and that was with the old alternator in there. And what I found was that the voltage, I was just literally watching the voltage decrease, like by the second. It was like boop, 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 going from like 10 volts to like 8 volts in the space of 1 minute, which is insane. And you know, I found out that the volts should be up at around like 13, 14 volts when the thing is running, right? Man, I wish those birds would shut the f up. You guys know me, I'm very new to cars and looking after a vehicle, and especially these Volkswagens. It's all new to me, and as each problem arises, I'm sort of figuring out how to fix it as it comes along, as they happen. So yeah. So anyway, that problem was happening. As you can see, this alternator was probably the one from factory, you know, and people can refurbish them. I posted up on Instagram and everybody was messaging saying, oh, you should just refurb it, like just change. I found out that that's a regulator. People just saying, oh, you should just replace the regulator and I bet it'll work fine. It's like, yeah, I probably could do that, but I don't know anybody on the Isle of Wight that can refurb an alternator, but I do know someone who has the exact same one that I could buy for very, very cheap. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm going to keep hold of the one that's not working and doing its job, and maybe later on down the line when I've got some time, I'll refurb it and keep it as like a spare. What we're going to do today is we're going to chuck in the new alternator in and see if it does the job. Fingers crossed. This is by no means a how-to video, but if anybody else is doing this and they're in my shoes where they've never done an alternator change before, this is what I took off the back of it. This is like a little plug with 3 female holes to go into 3 pins, and this was on the back as well, which is, I believe, an earth. Could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if I get anything wrong. And yeah, it goes right here. Okay, so there is like this bolt here where the alternator obviously sits there, and this bolt goes through it. I noticed that when I found out the hard way that this bolt end is actually an Allen key, and it is this one here, 6mm Allen key, and the bolt for this end you're going to need a 13 wrench, like that. You're going to need a 13 wrench. Okay, so first I've got to take off this and transfer it over to the new one. Times like this, I wish I had a little electric dac so I could just speed up the process, but I'm in no rush. I should say as well, I'm going to use this, which I've got lying around. It's a multi-purpose lithium-based grease. It says car lube at the top, and I'm just going to use this on like nuts and bolts, just so that in the future, if I have to take this off, it's not going to get seized. So let me know in the comments below if this is a bad idea. Here's the old alternator one more time, probably from factory, 1979 this was built, so don't worry, I'm going to store it and, you know, I'll dig it up again in the future. Okay, hope you can all see that. Oh, by the way, if you're looking at that, that was just a temporary fix that me and Adam did. It's basically loads of tape because when I got the truck there was no rubber washer in here. So this is a temporary fix until I get a new one. Let's pull this bolt to the side like that and then put that in. There we go. Now I just line up this bolt. There we go. Awesome. I'm going to get my 6mm Allen key, or Allen wrench, depending on where you're from. I'll get my multi-purpose lube. I'm going to put a touch of that on the thread. Get the bolt. Put the bolt on the end there. That's that bolt tightened up there, and on the timing cover there, as you can see, you should have a little hole just there where you can get your Allen key in. At this point you're probably wondering, like, why is there a spark plug missing? Don't worry, it's right here. And I'll just put that back in there like that. Okay, next up we need to obviously put this arm back into here, and I believe it just goes in there. You get the other bit, the bolt, and line it up like that. And I'm just going to do this sort of like finger tight for now. Okay, so I do have the old alternator belt, and now I would obviously at this point put a brand new belt on, but the next video that I'm going to be doing is going to be a full service, so filters, spark plugs, belts and things like that. So I have got all that stuff coming. So for now, in today's video, I'm just going to put the old belt on, but in the next video you'll see me change everything. If we go ahead, loop these back on. It needs to be tight, doesn't it? So I'm going to lift that up, tighten that and that whilst holding this up, right? So I give that a little whoop, and a little dip. What's quite good is that you can use one spanner or wrench for the whole thing. So like each bolt is the same size, which I like. It makes things easier. Don't know if you're supposed to really tighten these up, I imagine so. I should have mentioned this all at the start, but I've actually disconnected the battery terminal. Just for safety, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's plug that plug in, shall we? Here is the little bolt. Here is the little ground earth thingy here, which needs to attach somewhere on here. So one of these, you probably can't see that because this thing is in the way. But anyway, what I'm going to do is basically just attach this to the alternator. I was just talking to my friend Mike in the US, who's been helping me out with the alternator issue, and I was telling him about it and asking him about the that little thing that I just attached, the earthing thing, and he said you should have taken the regulator off the back and just checked it. So I'm just going to attach the battery back together, hope nothing explodes, and fingers crossed when we crank it. Make sure y'all can see that. Negative. So yeah, 11.83. Now it's time to test it out. Remember guys, I've never changed an alternator this whole week. I've just been learning about them and trying to source a new one. So I've done all this myself, and I just hope nothing fucking blows up or goes wrong. So I'm gonna turn it over and see what happens. If it doesn't start, I'm gonna have to jump it. Okay, so it didn't start, so I'm thinking now, like, is it the starter motor? I have no idea about these things. I'm just getting my girlfriend's car and jump start it with her battery and see where we go from there. Is it negative first or positive first? I'm going to go with negative. Is that wrong? Like I mentioned at the start, when I had this running and I used the multimeter on the battery with the old one going, the voltage was decreasing. So let's see what it's like now when it runs on its own. See, it's still going down. 11. Look at that. 10. Can you see that? 10.8. 10.7. This is what it was like before. Okay, so that was a fail. Mike thinks I need to take the regulator off the back and have a look. It's weird though, how could two different alternators be f***ed? I just got this one. How could both regulators be f***ed? There you go guys, that's the regulator from the new Alternator. Apparently these are called bushes, and apparently they're absolutely fine. They're springy. Apparently these get worn down over time. As you can tell, my enthusiasm is gone a little bit downhill just because I thought I'd have this up and running again and working as normal. So frustrating because we've got this big camping trip coming up in a couple of weeks and I want the truck f***ing ready. Here is the regulator from the old one that I took out to be replaced. Again, apparently these look fine. So basically, have I just bought an alternator for no reason? This is very confusing for someone who doesn't know what the hell could the issue be. Could it be wiring? This is so confusing. Like, why? Why is it not charging the battery? I have good news. So it's been a few days now, but the issue is fixed, and hopefully I'm getting this whole scenario right. But basically what was happening, the old alternator belt was slipping on this little wheel here, and it was squeaking, slipping, and when you could touch it, it would be red hot, which is an indication that the belt was slipping. So by the belt slipping on this little wheel here, the alternator was not able to spin round as fast and hit the brushes, I think it's the brushes, and the magnets and etc, so the alternator wasn't able to spin round and generate that power to charge the battery. I think I'm getting that right, but basically that was what was happening. The old belt was slipping, not causing the alternator to work as it should, which in then thus causing the battery not to charge up when the thing is running. So we've put a brand new alternator belt in, and it is not slipping, it's not squeaking, it's doing its thing. It's allowing the alternator to generate that power to go in and recharge the battery as the truck or the engine is running. So it's doing its thing. With the help of Adam, like I said, we used the multimeter on the battery whilst the engine was running, and we gave it some revs, and we saw it was going up to 13.7 or something like that. So we could tell that it's doing its thing. It is no longer dying, and it is no longer, whilst the engine is running with the multimeter, the volts are not dying down anymore, which is, it's doing what it should basically. So the issue is fixed, and I'm just so happy that I can use the truck again without worrying that, you know, the battery is going to be dead when I start it up again. So yeah, I'm happy it's doing its thing. I have ordered another alternator belt just as a spare that I'm going to keep in like the glove box or something, so hopefully never have to do that again. And whoever just drove up next to me, whole shot, so that is a massive. So one of the main reasons why the belt was slipping is because it just wasn't tight enough, and it had an old belt on it. So a little tip, if you're doing this for the first time, make sure you tension the belt as tight as you can, and you can do that by adjusting these bolts and moving the alternator. Yeah, that will cause the belt to slip if it's not tight enough, so make sure you do that. So I've bought another alternator belt just as a spare to keep in the truck at all times, just in case. I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'm going to keep a multimeter in there as well, just so I can check that it's still doing its thing. Still got the old alternator as well, which I'm sure I can take to someone to refurb and make sure that it's, you know, they can inspect it and make sure that it's running and doing its thing as it should as well. So yeah, all is not lost, and I'm just happy to have the truck back on the road and for the alternator to work and the battery to keep charging. There's nothing more to it than that. So thanks for watching this video, guys. As always, if you got anything from this, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. That way you get updated every time we release a brand new episode, which is hopefully going to be picking up in the future. I'd like to release more than just one video a week. I'd like to release maybe 2 or 3, so definitely subscribe so you're kept in the loop. And we've had a lot of messages recently on Instagram and on YouTube and all the rest of it, so it's really positive and it's encouraging us to keep doing what we're doing. So thank you for all your kind messages. We really appreciate it. You know, it's quite a special thing we're doing. Not many people are doing this whole like documenting everything and putting it out there onto the YouTube and stuff like that. It's quite specific, obviously, but we're getting there. If you have any video suggestions for us, please leave them in the comments below. We've had a ton of cool suggestions, and yeah, like I said, I can't wait to sort of do them and film it and show you guys. So thank you, keep them coming in, and as always, press subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.